3 balanced amateur and a single DD and crossover assembly inside this IEM. So you can expect this Defiant to be on the larger side, and as you can see here, it is very well designed also ergonomically, which means that I was able to get an impressive seal factor and also comfort. By the way, it comes with 3 types of ear tip, which is the foam tip, 2 other tips being silicone tips, which you would normally see being offered by many other IEM. And the one that I'm using, the one that I have been using for quite a bit, is the white foam tip because it offers me the very best comfort and also seal, at which I have been able to wear this for the last 3 hours now, I think, because I woke up at 3 a.m. this morning and now it is almost 6 a.m. I am not feeling any kind of fatigue, no abrasiveness or anything like that, and I was able to enjoy my music despite being on the roadside like this, walking all over the place, no issue at all. You see here, this black cable here, this is definitely not the stock Defiant cable, because if you have seen my unboxing video 1 month ago, you know that this Defiant comes with a very colorful cable, very colorful. And due to my very personal taste and preference, I like to clarify that I cannot stand to use that type of cable. So in exchange, I have opted to use, for the most part, Venture Electronic Vita standard. This is the kind of cable which I really love. Rated at 32 ohm with 109 dB of sensitivity, it does indicate that it might need power, but surprisingly, this Defiant is actually very efficient. When I connect it directly through the 3.5mm single-ended termination of my Xiaomi Mi 90 here, I was already getting the kind of sound and performance which I would consider as 90%. It is definitely usable. I do not feel that I am missing that much. And when I scale it up with something which is a bit more powerful, my favorite dongle here, which is Venture Electronic Devastator here, which is rated at 2 VRMS, then I would say that I am now getting something which is 100%. And when I scale it further with even more power from Ibaso DX340, honestly, I am not hearing that much of improvement at all, if any, because the kind of sound and performance which is already maxed out with this particular dongle here. So one thing for sure, this Defiant is very efficient to drive. Like I mentioned earlier, I don't like the stock cable of this Defiant here, because if you look at it, it is kind of a bit too funky, too colorful for my taste and my preference, and this is purely a very subjective thing. Let me just clarify this. Objectively, this is a good cable, really, because if you look at it, it comes with this modular 3.5mm single-ended termination and also 4.4mm balance, and overall, very well built. The reason that I choose this black cable here, which is Venture Electronic Vita standard, firstly because it looks better. Black on copper. It is entirely made of copper. However, there is a secondary surprise, or in fact a pleasant surprise, at which this cable seems to offer better sound and performance in terms of, let's say, the note width, the density of the sound itself. It is a bit smoother, it is a bit richer and a bit more colored, but the kind of coloration which I can appreciate. So while doing all that, it retains the resolution, the imaging and the technical aspect of this Defiant. The tuning for this Defiant is something which I would regard as being traditional V sound curve, with some boosting in the upper frequency, a bit of suppression in the mid-range and some boosting in the lower frequency, especially the sub-bass region. So if you love sub-bass, if you listen to certain type of music which require a lot of sub-bass, something like electronic music, pop music or even dance music, then you're gonna find that this Defiant really suits that kind of genre. However, when I listen to certain type of music which require a bit more of, let's say, mid-bass present and not so much on a sub-bass present, something like rock and metal music, or even percussion music, or even certain type of jazz and blues music, then I do feel that the lower frequency, the mid-bass itself does appear kind of a bit subdued because of the emphasis on the sub-bass region. So remember this, mid-bass not so strong, but sub-bass very strong. It actually extends really deep to the lower frequency, very smooth. It is not exactly the fastest sounding best performance which I have heard so far, but it is definitely smooth and detailed. And when it comes to the mid-range itself, it is fairly okay, I would say. It is not exactly the most transparent because there's a bit of hint of warmth there. So meaning to say that certain type of female vocal which is low octave would appear kind of a bit richer than what is perceived to be as transparent or neutral. But that is the kind of vocal which many people would like. The placement of the vocal does appear kind of a bit, let's say, far off from the listener because of that strong V flavoring. It also depends, because if you listen to rock and metal music, again, it would appear kind of a bit, step back. But if you listen to certain type of female or male vocal from jazz, then it is definitely no problem at all. This is definitely something which is suitable for people who are treble sensitive, because the way it presents the upper frequency is very smooth. It is smooth, it is detailed, and I would say that there's ample amount of sparkle and energy to make things exciting, but not to a point that I would even consider as being offensive. Technically, this Defiant, being a hybrid with different type of drivers and also with some crossover, it is definitely quite competent, especially when it comes to resolution of details, macro and micro detail. It is very impressive. And the layering, the separation, everything is just very clean sounding. However, I must highlight that because of that nature of being a hybrid, it does sound very holographic, but not exactly as wide as how I wish it to be. Because in comparison, I would even say that some magnetic planar or even dynamic driver would sound a bit wider than this Defiant. Comparatively, I would say that this Defiant competes head-on 1212 Truth Ear Zero Bluetooth, which I reviewed very recently. They even compete in the same price bracket of under $100 US. And they are both multiple driver. The kind of tuning, the kind of sound that they offer are pretty much very similar, which is, let's say, focus a lot more on sub bass rather than a mid bass, and a bit more of, let's say, suppression in the mid range and a bit of suppression in the upper frequency to make everything smooth and musical sounding. So both of them are tuned very well to be musical as it is analytical, and very versatile and very easy to drive. Perhaps the main difference between those two, this Defiant versus Zero Bluetooth, is that this one would appear a bit more energetic, a bit more engaging, and a bit more exciting with the upper frequency, as opposed to the more relaxed and more mature sound of Zero Bluetooth. Thank you so very much for watching the video until the end. Without skipping, I hope. Now click like and subscribe, and also follow me on Instagram under the name of Andy AV. And also, if you'd like to support me directly, you can join the membership below for behind the scene, especially for AAV Insider and above, which will allow you to see what I am doing behind the scene.